Let's earn ENT to actually learn ENT like never before. Hello and welcome back to one more video of ENT by Dr. Pranshu Mehta. Today we'll be learning about ear and its anatomy. We'll start with external ear first, and in external ear we'll take pinna today. So external ear has three parts: the pinna, the external auditory canal, and the tympanic membrane. Well, today we'll be reading pinna. Now consider the surface which you are looking at when you're looking at the side profile of a human. That surface of the pinna is called or referred to as the lateral surface. Now try to push that ear or the pinna with your hand anteriorly. Now the surface which you can see or are touching is the medial surface as it is facing towards the sagittal section. Okay, now considering the lateral surface, let's divide it into two things first: anterior, posterior, and superior, inferior, so that we know about what structure we are talking. There are some elevations and depressions in the cartilage which we have given specific names, like the helix, the outermost cartilage elevation, and the one which is opposite to that and parallel to it is called the antihelix. The antihelix splits superiorly to give rise to a fossa which is triangular in shape and hence is called the triangular fossa. Just behind antihelix there is one depression which is boat shaped. That is why it's called scaphoid fossa or the scapha. The much bigger depression which guards the opening of external auditory canal is called the concha, which is divided into two parts by the crus of the helix. Now see, the upper part of the upper smaller part and larger lower part. The upper smaller part is called the Simba concha, and the larger part which lies below is called the cavum concha. Okay, now just opposite to the concha, on the other side of the external auditory meatus, there's a triangular or a pyramidal projection which is called the tragus. Now, opposite to the tragus, in continuation with the antihelix, you see there's one more elevation. This is called the antitragus. Now, below these cartilaginous parts, there is one part which does not have any cartilage. This is called the earlobe. It is made up of adipose tissue. It does not have any cartilage. There's one more part in this pinna which does not have any cartilage, and it's called incisura terminalis. It lies between the crus of the helix and tragus. This part lacks the cartilage. But I think now we should see it in a real ear so that you understand it better. So we'll start drawing. The outermost elevation is called as the helix. Now see, the helix comes down anterior superiorly and forms this crus. This is called the crus of the helix. Now one more elevation which is parallel to this and splits superiorly is called the antihelix. It splits superiorly to form a triangular fossa. Now this is the antihelix. Now just behind this antihelix, if you see, between helix and antihelix, there's a boat-shaped depression which we have called as scaphoid or scapha. Now coming to the bigger depression which is there guarding the opening of the external auditory canal is called the concha. Now as you can see, this concha has been divided into two parts by this crus, which is the crus of the helix. The first upper or a smaller part which is called as Simba concha, and the other one which is below and is larger is called as the cavum concha. Now if you look at exactly opposite to this concha, across the external auditory meatus, there's one triangular projection called as the tragus. Just opposite to the tragus, that's anti-parallel to it, one more projection is there, that's called antitragus. Now this antitragus is actually in continuation with the antihelix. So this was about the cartilage. Now let's talk about the earlobe. The part which lies below and is made up of the adipose tissue is called the earlobe. Now earlobe can be actually completely free, completely attached, or partially attached. In this case it is completely attached. Now this is cartilage free. One more area is there which does not have any cartilage, and that's called incisura terminalis, which lies between the crus and the tragus, as you can see. That's called the incisura terminalis. Now we have read about this, but I think it will be better if we revise. We'll just within a few minutes revise this. And one more thing, actually I forgot. Wait, there might be one elevation on this helix at this location. Like in this, it is present. It is called Darwin's tubercle. It's not present in everyone. So now we'll go back to revising. We'll revise about everything which we have learned till now in the anatomy, so that you can actually repeat after me. So starting with, we'll make it the outermost elevation, that's the helix, outermost to the biggest. Then opposite to it, which splits into two superiorly, is the antihelix. That fossa is the triangular fossa. The depression, second one, is boat shaped and is called scaphoid or the scapha. Now, okay, what is the biggest depression which is guarding the EAC? That's concha. Very good. Now it is divided into two by the crus of the helix. It's called Symba concha and Cavum concha. Then the one opposite to that is tragus, which is protecting or guarding the external auditory meatus. Then parallel to it, in continuation with the antihelix, is the antitragus. Then the earlobe. Now earlobe could be completely attached, could be completely free or partially attached, and we should remember that this earlobe does not contain cartilage. It is completely made of adipose tissue. Then the other area which does not have cartilage is incisura terminalis, and then the tubercle which could be there is known as the Darwin's tubercle. So we have learnt it, we have revised it once. Very good. So this is a closer picture. If you want to revise, you can revise it once more. Now we'll move to the nerve supply. I'll say it'll be better if you take your finger, touch the parts of your ear along with this. So see, the lower part or the major part of the helix along with the antihelix and the earlobe on the lateral surface is supplied by the greater auricular nerve. The greater auricular nerve is a branch of the cervical plexus, supplied by C2 and C3. So if you rub a finger over there right now, you will feel that the sensation that is going to your brain is via C2 and C3, greater auricular nerve. Now the upper part of the helix, along with the crus of the helix and tragus and the anterior part or anterior wall of EAC, that is supplied by the auriculotemporal nerve. You can actually touch it and feel it. That auriculotemporal nerve is a branch of posterior division of the mandibular nerve, and mandibular nerve is the branch of trigeminal nerve, which is the fifth cranial nerve. So, okay, now the depression which is left, that is the concha, along with the posterior wall of EAC, is supplied by the cranial nerve 10 and cranial nerve 7, that is vagus and the facial. Now, which branch of vagus? That's Arnold's nerve and some sensory fibers of the facial. Now, see, there's a very good concept over here. If you consider this to be the opening of the EAC and then consider EAC along with this, we'll make EAC. Then, similar to this external supply, the posterior superior wall of the EAC is supplied by the vagus nerve, and the anterior inferior wall of the EAC supplied by the trigeminal, and similar is the supply of the tympanic membrane. Now moving to the posterior or the medial surface, but for learning that, we'll actually compare it with the anterior surface or the lateral surface. So this is what we have learned till now. The majority of the lower and lateral part was by greater auricular. Then the topmost part along with the crus, along with the tragus and along with the anterior wall was by auriculotemporal, and the concha and the posterior wall of EAC opening was by vagus nerve as well as facial nerve. Now just think about turning the ear ahead again so that you can actually correlate. The topmost part or the rim you can see is again by auriculotemporal, similar to the anterior surface or the lateral surface. Then the lateral and inferior part again is by the greater auricular, again similar to what we have done till now. Then just opposite the concha, that part is again by the vagus nerve. But see, this white portion, this is left. This is supplied by another nerve over here that's called the lesser occipital nerve. It is also actually a branch of the cervical plexus supplied by the C2. So now we have done the nerve supply. Now we'll move to the arterial supply. It is supplied by the external carotid artery, which actually we can divide into 8 branches overall. So let's see all the branches. The first one, superior thyroid artery. Second one, ascending pharyngeal. Third one, lingual. Fourth one, facial artery. Fifth one, occipital artery. So see, superior thyroid, ascending pharyngeal, lingual, facial, occipital. And sixth one, posterior auricular. This is the important one for us because this is the one which will supply the pinna. Along with this, seventh is the maxillary and eighth is superficial temporal. Superficial temporal also supplies the pinna. So the two arteries which supply pinna are posterior auricular artery and the Superficial temporal artery. As the lymph nodes usually are spread across the arteries only, we'll talk about them here only. So the lymph nodes where the lymphatics of the pinna drain are the preauricular ones, the parotid region ones, and the postauricular. So there are three: the preauricular, the parotid, and the postauricular. Now, why is this important? Because see, whenever we'll examine the pinna or whenever we'll examine the ear, we'll not directly start with the pinna. We'll look into the preauricular region, including the parotid region. Then we'll look into the pinna, and then we'll gently move it in front so that we can examine the postauricular region. We'll not go into detail about the examination. We'll do the examination part and diseases and their management in the next class. So for today, we have learned the anatomy of the pinna. We have learned about the cartilage. We've learned about the elevations, depressions, its nerve supply, and the blood supply. And hopefully, we'll see you in the next video with the diseases as well as the management of pinna and its cases. So if you enjoyed the video today, do like it, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The ENT Surgeons.